Good afternoon, and the very warmest of welcomes indeed to today's iOB business webinar. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on here. My name is Ben, and I'm the resident business coach here at iOB Business. Now, what we'll be talking about today, organizing your business, becoming an efficiency powerhouse, really making the most out of your business. So it's a wonderful, wonderful topic, something we're very, very excited to bring to you today. So whilst we're just going over the 2 o'clock mark, okay, we have just a minute or so until we get kicked off for today's presentation. So welcome to those of you joining us just now. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on here. Welcome back. Thank you for coming back again. All right. And to those of you that are new here, a massive warm welcome as well. It's a pleasure to have you on. So just to give you a little run through of how these webinars work. If you have any questions throughout today's webinar session, please feel free to ask them. You can do so in the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen there. It's a gray button at the bottom you'll find where you can ask questions. And you're more than welcome to ask questions throughout any point of today's webinar, but I will answer them for you at the end during the Q&A session at the end of today's webinar session. All right. So what we'll also do is in between each of the three core topics that we're going to discuss today, I'll give you a brief moment to go ahead, jot down any notes, and indeed ask away with any questions that you might have for us as well, just to make sure that we're getting enough time and we don't fall behind on the presentation. All right, so with that being said, let's go and get kicked off. All right, so in just a moment's time, I'm going to ask you a big favor if I could please have an audio check and a sound check from everyone, just so that I know we're ready to get kicked off for today's session and everybody's happy to go. Okay, so what you should be able to see now is the presentation up on screen. It should say, organize your business, become an efficiency powerhouse. And you should indeed also be able to hear my voice. So if you could please do me a big favor, let me know that you can hear my voice okay, so that I know that we're ready to get kicked off for today's webinar presentation. All right, cool. Excellent. Thumbs up. Thank you very much. I will take that as a resounding, we are ready to get going. So thank you ever so much for doing that for me. Now I know we're ready to get kicked off. So let's begin. Organize your business, become an efficiency powerhouse. Okay, your presenter today is myself. My name is Ben, and I'm a business coach. I specialize in working with businesses just like many of you on here today to help them achieve stability and growth. It's a genuine passion, and it's what I get to do every single day, and I'm absolutely thrilled about it. So I'm very excited to take you through today's webinar presentation. Okay, now the first of three discussion points, declutter your physical and mental workspace. We're going to talk about how having a clean environment can really excel you forward with your business. Number two, one thing at a time. And number three, effective daily scheduling, making sure that you are ready to rock day in, day out with your schedule. Okay, so getting kicked off with topic number one, declutter your physical and mental workspace. Let's get into it. Okay, so what do I mean by this? Well, here's an old theory for you, one that you'll probably recognize very well. The old theory of messy space, messy mind rings true. Okay, now there's a very common saying, phrase, kind of, however you want to look at it, that if your environment is messy, your mind is going to be messy. Okay, now what that means is if your desk or your workspace in this context is cluttered, you can't move your hands. Every time you try and type, you're bumping into something or you're knocking something else over. It's going to begin to become frustrating. Okay, it's going to become frustrating because you can't move. You're looking at all this mess and all this clutter around you. You can't expect yourself to be fully productive in an environment that isn't efficient and clean and easy to work in. So that's the first thing. Second thing this applies to, which we're going to talk about, is your digital space, okay? Because you have a physical space, a physical environment where you work, but also, as online business owners, we also have a big responsibility to keep our own digital environment clean as well, okay? Free of clutter. So that means if you've got 400 tabs open, all right, then you're going to struggle to find which tab is which. You're probably going to have lots of the same website or different components of the same website open. You're going to find it very difficult to find what you actually need. Now, what does this do? It wastes an enormous amount of time. Okay, you're clicking, trying to find what you want. You're doing that for so long that by the time you get there, you actually forget what you came for in the first place. Now, this is a major problem because it slows down your productivity. And in business, of course, we need to be as productive as we possibly can be. So, two things here. Make sure that your physical environment is nice and neat and tidy so that your mind is nice and neat and tidy. And number two, keep your digital space clean so that you can work efficiently. All right. So trying to work in a physically messy environment, I'm sure you've done it before, we've all done it. It can very, very, very likely affect your productivity. All right. Now, the reasons behind that are many. One of the main ones being that you might have an urge to try and tidy up your physical space instead of doing what you should be doing, which is working. Number two, you'll be bumping into stuff's falling off the desk, or you're trying to type at an awkward angle with your arms because you're trying to get around stuff or not knock anything over. You're trying to reach for something, a notepad. Again, you can't do that until you clear the space so that you can write clearly on the notepad. All of these things, they really begin to slow you down. And secondarily to that, sometimes, or me personally anyway, makes me feel a little bit stressed because I haven't got a clean and clear space. I can't do what I need to do without first moving something else. And that becomes very tedious. All right. And what happens when something becomes tedious? We don't enjoy doing it. All right. So as an absolute bare minimum, a physical environment should be clean and free of clutter and free of mess so that we can think clearly. Now, I'm not exactly sure of the science behind it, but I'm fairly confident there's probably an actual reason as to why having a clear space is going to help us think more clearly. All right. It looks clean, it looks neat, it looks tidy. Therefore, it helps us think nice and clearly, and it's just a good thing. All right. So that doesn't just apply to your desk. Think about your office or your workspace. Is everything where you need it to be? If you need a file, can you grab that? If you need a book, can you pick that up? If you need your phone, can you find that? All right. All of these little things, organize yourself well, know where your headphones are, know where your technology is that you need, know where every little piece that you need to get your job done is, and you can find it easily. Okay. Now, it works the same in our digital workspace. All right. Too many tabs, files, folders open can find it difficult to locate what we actually need. Right. So files are another great example. We talked about tabs earlier. With files, we could have things dotted all over the place, left, right, up, down, sideways, in different folders. So it's very, very difficult to find what we actually need. All right. Now, with some computers, there is search functions so that we can pick up what we actually need. But much more importantly, what we need to do is making sure that we're deleting all of those redundant files, redundant screenshots, stuff that we don't need that's just clogging up the system. Because on a practical basis, having our computer full of files that we don't need can slow it down. But in addition to that, we need to be able to find what we want very, very quickly. Okay. So as an absolute minimum, you should have things organized by client, by project, however you choose to do it, alphabetically, numerically, whatever makes the most sense to you. And the logic behind this is that when you need something, you can access it in a drop. It's just immediately there. Okay. Now, this also applies when you're taking on new projects. You have a system for organizing each client, each project, each file. And when you have a setup like this, it's efficient for you, it's efficient for the client. You just feel amazing because you're being so productive. And every time you need something, it's just there. And that's very, very pleasing. Okay. So keep it clean, tidy, and organized, and you will find it easier to focus on a single task. Okay. One big reason why many of us struggle to focus is because we're trying to navigate through these messy environments all the time. And it really begins to cause a lot of frustration. And what happens when you get frustrated, you slow down, you become less effective with the work that you're doing. All right. So that brings us to the end of topic number one. As promised, I'm going to give you a brief moment now. Please do feel free to take this opportunity to ask any questions and indeed jot down any notes that you might wish to take. And I'll see you again in just a moment's time for topic number two of today. All right, wonderful. Let's move ourselves on to topic number two then. We're talking about doing one thing at a time. Okay, we're talking about becoming these efficiency powerhouse businesses. All right. So a very, very big part of this is understanding how to best manage our time and in order to get the most amount of stuff done in a limited amount of time. Okay. So multitasking is an extremely valuable skill, but not one that should be used all of the time. Okay. Because typically, in my experience, when you're multitasking, two things, three things, four things at once, they're not getting your full attention. And when they're not getting your full attention, that means that they're not being done as well as they possibly could be. All right. So by multitasking, I mean, if you're in the middle of writing an email and somebody comes into your office to ask you a quick question, you can kind of stay on track. You can almost continue typing whilst answering the question. That would be an example of effective multitasking. Okay. Same as if you're on the phone and you need to sign a document or whatever. Okay. These are multitasking things, right? Now, By multitasking, I don't mean have 4 documents open and write 4 documents together simultaneously. It's just not going to be effective. You're not going to produce the same quality of content. It's definitely, absolutely not something that I would recommend doing for that reason, because every single thing that you do should be done to the highest possible quality it can be done at. And in my experience, the best way to achieve this is by simply focusing on one thing at a time. So I will make absolutely clear that multitasking is a very, very valuable skill to have, something that you should be able to do, but not necessarily something that should be used all the time, right? So what I'd like you to do is pick a single task, clear the space around it to make yourself as productive as possible and see it through to the end. Okay, now what I mean by this is, let's say that you have 15 tabs open, right? But you need to start writing a project. Close down or bookmark each of those other tabs, or at least the non-essential tabs, all right? So if you want to keep some basics open, like your email, your calendar, project management, whatever it is you've got open, fair enough. But other than that, the only tab that should be open is the tab that you're currently working on, okay? Makes it nice and easy to navigate. You only have to go between 4 tabs instead of 15. You've got a nice, clear work environment. You know where everything is that you need. You can click left, you can click right, and you find exactly what you're looking for, exactly when you're looking for it, okay? So not only will this save you a huge amount of time, it'll also help you get things done much more quickly. It'll help you look at it from a mentally clear angle of, fantastic, this is really nice and clear and I can get this done and just focus on it. So I don't know about you, but I personally really, really struggle to focus on a task when there's loads of other notifications dinging and I've got loads of different tabs open. It just feels cluttered. And when something feels cluttered, you're not going to be as productive as you can be. Okay. The second thing that we need to do, stop leaving tasks half finished. Okay. If you start working on something within reason, aim to finish it that day. All right. Hopefully in that one sitting. So if it's something larger than, say, an hour, it's expected and fair enough to take breaks or take a moment, go and get a coffee, come back, stretch the legs and whatever. That's fair. And, if it's anything less than an hour, sit down and get it done all in one go. Carve out time, make sure that you have got the time to do it, and don't delay. Just make sure that you're getting done what you need to do at that point in time. Okay. It's a very, very simple theory, but one that is going to be very, very effective as we go throughout your business journey. Now, each time you complete a task, you'll get a rush of good feeling, okay, encouraging you onto the next task. So when we talk about becoming an efficiency powerhouse, when we think about becoming really, really effective, what we've got to think about is the fact that each time we complete these tasks, you'll get a rush of good feeling, okay? Now, what happens with this rush of good feeling is that you begin, of course, to feel amazing. And when you feel amazing, you're going to get more done. Why? Because you have confidence, trust, and faith in yourself to get the task done. So if you want to keep this good feeling going, keep getting more and more done, okay? Do you typically, if I ask you a question, do you typically feel better at the end of a work day where you haven't done much, or where you've done absolutely loads? Okay, you might be a bit more tired after the work day where you've done a whole bunch, but the very, very, very big likelihood is that you'll have that sort of tired satisfaction of, I am tired, yes, but I'm extremely proud of myself because I got a huge amount of work done. Now, this is an invaluable skill that can be picked up and developed over time, where we start to achieve that feeling every single day, because each time we get something done, we're going on to the next without hesitation. All right. So some people prefer to work in blocks, 20, 30, 60-minute blocks. And they'll say, right, well, if I finish one within that 60-minute block, I'm going to go straight on to the next. I'm going to start that. Okay. They keep it rolling all the time. So that's a fantastic way to manage your time, is carve out an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours for projects, but not necessarily any one specific project, as long as you're getting each one done in one sitting, right? So let's say I have to write 3 projects. I'm not just going to carve out time to do project number 1. I'm going to carve out 3 hours on a Tuesday morning, and hopefully I'll get all 3 projects done. But that's my project working time, not necessarily the time set out just to work on one specific sole project, right? So each time you complete a task, you'll get a rush of a good feeling, encouraging you on to the next. Always a good thing. So the thought of having lots of things to do creates a mental picture of the long road ahead, all right? Now, this can and probably does often totally demotivate you, as it does with most people, okay? Now, the reason for this is because you imagine right now you're looking at one task and it's just a singular brick on the road in front of you. It's easy enough to step over and get it out of the way. But each time you stack a brick on top of that brick, it gets higher and higher and higher, and becomes to what essentially begins feeling like an insurmountable object or a long road ahead. Okay, you think, oh, wow, I hope I have the energy to do that later, or I don't even know how to begin answering that email yet. Okay. Now, the reason that one step at a time or one thing at a time is so valuable is because you're giving full mental energy to that one singular task in that one specific point in time. So you're giving it everything you have and you're doing it really, really well. Then you move on to the next. And because you're not thinking about the long road that you have to walk down, instead, you're just looking at it one step at a time. Each step is being perfected and each step feels great. Okay. Try not to look all the way down the road and think about all the stuff that you got to do. Just think about what's happening right now. Okay. This is particularly effective when you have a super busy day. Now, don't get me wrong, it's good to put in deadlines and have goals and visions and, of course, all of these things, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about not allowing your workload to intimidate you. All right. Thank you for the question. I'll get that at the end. So that brings us really nicely onto the last kind of element, third and final topic in just a moment's time. But before we do that, we'll take a brief pause so that you can go ahead and ask any questions and indeed jot down any notes you might wish to take as well. And I'll join you again in just a moment's time for topic number 3. All right, amazing. So let's get to talking about topic number 3 then, effective daily scheduling. Okay, very, very important piece of your business and indeed many people's personal lives as well. Okay, so begin each day knowing exactly what you're setting out to achieve today. So every day when you wake up, you should have a goal or something that you want to do today. Okay. Now, a big, big driver behind making our working day or working life not just feel like a constant cycle where everything is the same is setting out something new to achieve today. So what is it that you would like to do? Now, even if that achievement is a feeling of achievement in and of itself, okay, I want to feel amazing at the end of today. So how can I do that? What do I need to get done in order to be able to give myself truly a pat on the back and say, great job, well done. We got plenty done today. And that achievement looks different for everyone. Okay. For some people, they want to finish a project they've been working on for ages. Some people want to get started on a book they've been talking about starting for a long time. Some people want to get some content created or post, content across their channels. Everybody has a different vision of what they need to be doing. Okay. And that for you will be different to what it is for me and what it is for our neighbors and our competitors and every type of different business out there. Okay. So begin each day knowing exactly what you're setting out to achieve, and it will very much help you stay motivated and driving through the day. Now, here's the second thing you can do. You can write a list of tasks you hope to achieve and organize them in matter of priority. Okay. Now, where to begin is with the highest priority task, right? So often you'd see maybe the lowest priority is probably one of the easier ones, right? But the theory of conquering the most difficult task of the day means that you have done the hardest thing you're going to have to do today and it's out the way. So everything else is going to hopefully seem easier. Okay. Now, have you ever experienced a moment where you think, wow, how did I get that done? If I'd have told myself this morning that I was going to get all of that done, I would have said, you're wrong. You're categorically wrong. But instead, I'm looking at this content, this project, this video, and I'm thinking, how on earth did I manage to make that happen all in one day? How did I get so much done within an hour? And I'm sure that you've had that feeling before. Many of us have. So we want to have this feeling all the time. We want to truly look at the mountains that we've climbed, the roads that we've conquered in that amount of time. So write this list of tasks down. What have you got to do today? Okay. Now, some of us have residual to-do lists. What I would advise, take that to-do list, put it somewhere where you can see it all the time. Personally, I like to put my tasks in my calendar and I split them up by day. So I say on Wednesday, I'm going to get these things done. Thursday, I'm going to get those things done. Friday, I'm going to finish off the week with everything I need done. Okay. Now, this list of tasks, you then start to prioritize it. If you want, you can use a color coding system. For example, red needs done urgently, amber needs done kind of soon, and green is absolutely no priority whatsoever. Okay, so you have a few green, few red, few amber, and make sure that you're working through each one. But begin with the most difficult task or tasks, and you'll find yourself being motivated to go on and do more. Okay, now the next thing you can do is carve out time throughout the day to get each task completed, because there is one very big component of organizing the tasks that we have to do. The second is making sure that we have time to actually do them. Now, what's another big reason for leading to demotivation and not feeling so great about it? because you said you were going to do loads of things today and you never ended up getting them done. Now, strictly, that's not always because we weren't being productive or we weren't trying to be effective. Sometimes that means that we got pulled into meetings we didn't need to be in. We ended up on phone calls that we shouldn't have been on, or we ended up spending too much time replying to emails that could have waited until Friday. Okay. We need to make sure we're carving out time to get these things done. Otherwise, it's too easy to become distracted. And by the time the end of the working day comes around, we haven't really got as much done as we'd hoped we would. Okay. Now, really, ultimately, the only people that are responsible for that is us. If you have a redundant meeting or something that you don't need to be in attendance of because you've got something else to do, make sure that everybody knows you're going to do that. If you can and are willing to, prioritize whatever it is that needs to get done over and above the meeting. Okay. So make sure you're carving out this time. And finally, repeat this habit over and over and over and over again to plan your days, weeks, and months in advance. Eventually, it'll become like muscle memory. It'll be so easy for you each morning to just go ahead, jot down a few little notes about what it is you're going to get done today. Go and do it and finish every day with a wonderful sense of achievement, which is what we'd all love, right? Everybody wants to feel a sense of achievement at the end of the day. Okay, so that brings us to the end of topic number 3. What we'll do in just a moment's time is we'll go through the recap, and then after the recap, we'll go into the Q&A session where I'll answer all the questions I have from everyone on the webinar today. All right, so I'll be right back with you in just a moment. Okay, fantastic. So let's get ourselves onto the recap for today's session then. Number 1, messy space equals messy mind. Make sure that your physical and digital environments are clean. Number 2, step by step, one step at a time. Stop looking all the way down the road. Just focus on the task that's in front of you. And finally, prioritize tasks. Conquer the hardest task, and everything else will feel easy throughout the rest of the day, or well, easier, should we say. Okay, so that brings us then to the end of the webinar. And as always, a massive thank you for taking the time to attend today's business session. Okay. Now, if you'd like to talk to a member of our team, you're more than welcome to head over to iob-business.com/talk-to-us. And on there, you can go ahead and book a call at a time that suits you. So if you follow that link, you'll see a calendar just like this one pop up in front of you. So what I'll do is I'll leave that link up on the screen now whilst I go and get the questions from everyone today. Okay, cool. First question in question. I'm not typically a great planner. Okay, cool. So listen, nobody was ever great at it right from the start, right? It takes practice, it takes refinement, it takes a little bit of nurture even, okay? So we can all form new habits, right? We can think about things differently. We can form new habits. We can put things in effect that we need to put into effect. So if you want to become a great planner, just start with the absolute fundamental basics. Just begin by planning in one task that you need to get done each day. Carve out time to get it done, right? And the rhythm will follow. So say you need 20 minutes to get the task done. You know that information. You say, I'm going to work on it from 9 a.m. till 9:20. That'll be it done. You do it again on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Eventually, the habit will begin to kick in and compound. So when I say rhythm, I mean you'll begin to naturally think, oh, well, I did that really well. Why don't I extend the time to 9:40 and I could get 2 tasks done? And then you extend the time to 10 o'clock and you get 3 tasks done, and so on and so forth. You find yourself becoming very, very effective. And more importantly, you answer your own question of how to become a better planner. Okay, hope that helps. Great question. Thank you for asking. Next question. I struggle with focusing on one thing at a time. Yeah, cool. All right. I get it. I understand. So it's not uncommon. All right. Especially, as business owners, when we have loads of things to do, it can be difficult to focus on just a singular task because we feel like we should almost always be doing something else, if not somehow simultaneously, right? Now, here's my suggestion, okay? Try and take a minute, clear your mind, think about how good it will feel to have completed the task at hand, okay? The very task that you're working on right now, try and forget about all the other stuff that you have outstanding, focus on this one, and then take something else off the pile. Imagine it was a stack of folders. You finish in one folder, you put it down in a completed pile, you can sign that one off, you get the rush of good feeling because you've signed it off, pick up the next, complete it, put it into the done pile, so on and so forth. And you repeat until the cycle is done for the day. All right. So hopefully that helps. Remember, one step at a time. Stop looking all the way down the road. Focus on the one thing that you have to do right now. All right. I hope that helps. Another great question. Thank you for that. Do we have any more questions from today? It looks like that's it then. Okay, wonderful. Well, as always, have a wonderful week, and thank you ever so much for joining. Take care and speak soon.